Pay attention to the security camera footage on your screen right now. The timestamp is April 25th, 2023. The time is 9:35 p.m. You are looking at Sedgefield Drive, a quiet, well-manicured residential street in Harahan, Louisiana. The streetlights are humming. The lawns are freshly cut. Inside these homes, families are winding down, televisions are flickering, and children are sleeping. It is the picture of suburban safety. But if you look at the sidewalk on the left side of the frame, you will see a figure moving through the darkness. This is Bunnak Hannah Lim. She is 43 years old. She is wearing a pink long-sleeved shirt, black leggings, and white knee-high boots. She is walking with a steady, rhythmic pace. She is not running. She is not looking over her shoulder. She is pulling a handle behind her. Attached to that handle is a small, blue canvas wagon, the kind used to haul beach toys or groceries. But Hannah Lim is not going to the beach, and she is not delivering groceries. Inside that wagon, sitting upright and heavy, is a white, 10-gallon plastic chlorine bucket. The lid is snapped shut. To a neighbor glancing out their window, this looks like a woman perhaps returning a borrowed item or moving gardening supplies. It looks mundane. It looks innocent, but the simulation has crashed because what you are actually witnessing is one of the most depraved acts of psychological warfare ever captured on video. Hannah Lim is not transporting chemicals. She is transporting the body of her boyfriend's 6-year-old daughter, Bella Fontenelle. Bella is folded inside that bucket. She has been dead for less than an hour. And the woman pulling the wagon, the woman who braided Bella's hair, the woman who cooked her dinner, the woman Bella's father Michael trusted with his life, is not taking the body to a river. She is not taking it to a dumpster to hide her crime. She is taking it to a specific address. Hannah walks 2 blocks. She passes 4 houses. She passes a parked car. She listens to the crickets. She feels the weight of the wagon handle in her palm. Most killers panic. Most killers try to bury the evidence. Hannah Lim does the opposite. She is executing a delivery. She arrives at the home of Bella's biological mother. For months, Hannah has harbored a deep, festering jealousy toward this woman. She hated the custody arrangement. She hated that Michael, her boyfriend, still had to communicate with his ex. She felt disrespected. She felt that the child, Bella, was the tether binding them together. Therefore, in her twisted logic, she decided to sever that tether. And she decided to do it in a way that would inflict the maximum amount of trauma possible. Watch the footage at the 0:42 mark. Hannah stops at the edge of the front lawn. She steps off the sidewalk and onto the grass. She reaches down into the wagon. She grips the handle of the white bucket. It is heavy, containing the weight of a 6-year-old girl. Hannah lifts it out. She does not hide it behind a bush. She does not tuck it near the trash cans. She places it explicitly, deliberately, right in the center of the lawn, near the driveway. She positions it so that it will be the very first thing Bella's mother sees when she opens her front door to go to work in the morning. This is not disposal. This is a message. Hannah Lim is returning the child. She is treating a human life, a little girl who loved unicorns and drawing, as a package she is sending back. Once the bucket is placed, Hannah stands up. She looks at the house one last time. She doesn't cry. She doesn't shake. She turns around, grabs the handle of the now empty wagon, and begins the walk back. The return journey is even more chilling. The wagon is light now. It bounces slightly on the pavement. Hannah walks back to the house she shares with Michael. She walks back to the scene of the murder. She opens the front door. She parks the wagon. And then, she sits down on the sofa. Michael Fontenelle, Bella's father, arrives home from work just minutes later. He sees Hannah. She looks normal. She looks calm. He assumes his daughter is asleep in her bed. He has no idea that the bed is empty. He has no idea that the bathroom has been scrubbed of blood. And he has no idea that the woman he is about to kiss goodnight has just wheeled his entire world down the street and left her in a plastic bucket on a lawn. Most people watching this struggle to comprehend the why. They look for signs of panic. They look for insanity. But you won't find it here. What you see in Hannah Lim's walk is not madness. It is satisfaction. She believes she has won the argument. She believes she has solved the problem. But she forgot one thing. She forgot that Sedgefield Drive is lined with security cameras. She thought the darkness belonged to her. She was wrong. The darkness belongs to the lens. And you are going to see the moment the sun rises, the moment that bucket is opened, and the moment the perfect stepmother mask is ripped off forever. The discovery and the architecture of hate. To understand the sheer magnitude of the evil you just witnessed in that footage, you first have to understand the morning that followed. Hannah Lim didn't just leave a bucket on a lawn. She planted a psychological bomb. She knew Bella's mother's schedule. She knew she left for work at exactly 7:30 a.m. Therefore, she knew exactly when the detonation would occur, at 7:28 a.m. on April 26th. The sun was fully up over Sedgefield Drive. Birds were singing. The automatic sprinklers had just turned off. Inside the house, Bella's biological mother was drinking her coffee, checking her emails, completely unaware that her life had effectively ended 10 hours earlier. At 7:30 a.m., she opened the front door. Her eyes went immediately to the white object on the grass that it sat there, gleaming in the morning light. A standard 10-gallon chlorine bucket. To a stranger, it looked like misplaced pool equipment. But to a mother, it felt wrong. It was too deliberate. It was placed with too much precision. She walked toward it. She later testified that with every step, the air seemed to get colder. She reached the bucket. She saw the lid was snapped shut, sealed tight. She reached down to pull it open, expecting perhaps trash, perhaps a prank. The lid popped off, and the scream that tore through that neighborhood was not human. It was the sound of a soul breaking. Neighbors 2 streets overheard it. One neighbor, a retired Marine, ran out of his house with a baseball bat, thinking someone was being attacked. He found Bella's mother on her knees in the wet grass, clawing at the ground, unable to breathe. He looked into the bucket. He saw the pajamas. He saw the stillness. He closed the lid and stood guard until the sirens drowned out the screaming. The police response when the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's deputies arrived at 7:34 a.m. They didn't treat this as a medical emergency. They treated it as a crime scene. They taped off the lawn. They taped off the bucket. But they didn't need to look for fingerprints on the handle to know who did this. They just needed to look at the street cameras. Detectives immediately pulled the feed from the neighbor's Ring camera across the street. They watched the footage we showed you in part 1. They watched the woman in the white boots. They watched the red wagon. They watched the delivery. It wasn't a mystery. One detective later leaked to the press. It was a map. They tracked the woman in the video backward, frame by frame, camera by camera. They watched her walk out of the driveway of Michael Fontenelle's home at 9:35 p.m. They watched her walk back in at 9:48 p.m. They had their suspect within 12 minutes of arriving on the scene. The arrest at 8:15 a.m. A SWAT team and 4 patrol units surrounded Michael Fontenelle's home. They didn't know if Hannah Lim was armed. They didn't know if Michael was involved. They breached the front door with guns drawn. Inside, the scene was terrifyingly normal. The television was playing a morning news program. A half-eaten bowl of oatmeal sat on the coffee table. And there, sitting on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, was Hannah Lim. She didn't run. She didn't reach for a weapon. She looked up at the officers with a face of stone. When they screamed at her to get on the ground, she moved slowly, almost annoyed. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't ask, is Bella okay? She didn't ask, where is Michael? She asked, can I get my shoes? She was concerned about her white boots. The same boots she wore to dump the body. Michael Fontenelle arrived 4 minutes later. He had been called at his construction job. He drove his truck onto the lawn, jumping the curb. He saw the yellow tape. He saw the police cars. He saw his girlfriend being let out in handcuffs, watched the body cam footage of his arrival. He runs toward the officer. Where is she? Where is Bella? The officer has to physically restrain him. The officer has to look this father in the eye and say, "Sir, you need to step back. Bella is gone." Michael collapses. It isn't a faint. His legs just stop working. He falls into the dirt, wailing. And in the background of that shot, you can see Hannah Lim sitting in the back of the patrol car. She is watching him cry. She isn't crying. She is watching him with the same detached curiosity you would use to watch a stranger on TV. She had successfully destroyed him. Mission accomplished. The evidence trail while Hannah sat in the interrogation room. Investigators began tearing apart the house. They found the red wagon in the backyard, tucked behind the shed. They sprayed it with luminol. It lit up like a Christmas tree. Despite her attempt to wipe it down, microscopic trace evidence of blood and chlorine remained in the plastic grooves. But the most damning evidence wasn't in the wagon. It was in her digital footprint. Forensic analysts cracked her phone within an hour. They found a series of Google searches dating back 3 weeks. How long does it take for chlorine to dissolve biological material? What time do garbage trucks run in Harahan? Can a 6-year-old fit in a 10-gallon bucket? She hadn't just snapped. She had been shopping. They found a receipt from a local hardware store dated April 24th, one day before the murder. The receipt listed 2 items: one 10-gallon industrial bucket with locking lid point, 2 gallons of concentrated pool shock. She bought the coffin before she committed the crime. She stood in the checkout line, paid with her own credit card, and smiled at the cashier, knowing exactly what she was going to put inside that plastic container. This was not a tragedy of circumstance. This was a project. Hannah Lim treated the murder of Bella Fontenelle like a home improvement task. She gathered the supplies. She prepped the site. She executed the plan. And when she was done, she delivered the finished product to the one person she wanted to hurt the most. That we are going to take you inside that interrogation room. You will hear the voice of a monster who believes she was justified. You will hear her explain why she chose the bucket. And you will see the final verdict that ensured she will die in a concrete box, just like the one she forced Bella into. The confession, the verdict, and the empty room. Hannah Lim sat in the interrogation room at the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office for 6 hours before she told the truth. She didn't ask for a lawyer. She didn't ask for Michael. She sat with her hands folded on the metal table, staring at the two-way mirror with the same terrifying stillness she displayed in the back of the patrol car. When Detective Miller finally placed the photo of the white bucket on the table and asked, "Why there? Why did you leave her on the lawn?" Hannah Lim didn't look away. She didn't cry. She leaned forward and said the words that would ensure she never breathes free air again. "I wanted her to know." She wasn't talking about Bella. She was talking about Bella's mother. The motive. This was not a crime of passion. It was a crime of transaction. Hannah Lim hated the biological mother. She hated the custody schedule. She hated the phone calls. She felt that Michael was still tethered to his ex-wife through the child. Therefore, she decided to sever the tether. She didn't just want to kill Bella. She wanted to return her. That is why she didn't bury the body in the woods. That is why she didn't throw the bucket in a dumpster. She packed the child into that container and wheeled her 2 blocks down the street because she wanted the biological mother to be the one to open the lid. She wanted to inflict maximum, permanent psychological damage. She viewed Bella not as a human being, but as a package she was returning to sender. The autopsy and the violence. The defense team tried to argue that Hannah snapped, that it was a moment of chaotic rage. But the medical examiner's report destroyed that narrative. The autopsy revealed that Bella Fontenelle did not die quickly. The cause of death was listed as manual strangulation and blunt force trauma. The forensic analysis of the bathroom showed signs of a struggle. Bella fought back. She trusted Hannah. She let Hannah into the bathroom. And when the attack began, she likely looked at the woman who braided her hair and couldn't understand why this was happening. Hannah Lim beat a 6-year-old girl to death, cleaned the tiles with bleach, dressed the body in pajamas, and forced her into a 10-gallon bucket. This required time. It required effort. It required a level of cold, methodical brutality that goes beyond snapping. It is the behavior of a predator who has deactivated their humanity. The trial began in 2024. The courtroom was packed. Michael Fontenelle sat in the front row, a broken man, unable to look at the woman he once planned to marry. The prosecution played the security footage you saw in part 1. They played the walk. They played the delivery. "Look at her pace," the district attorney told the jury. "Insanity is frantic. Insanity runs." Hannah Lim walks. She walks because she believes she is right. She walks because she believes she has solved a problem. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder. Obstruction of justice. When the verdict was read, Hannah Lim showed no emotion. She didn't weep. She didn't apologize to the family. She simply checked her fingernails. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She will die in a concrete box, just like the one she forced Bella into. The aftermath. The house on Sedgefield Drive stands empty today. Michael Fontenelle moved out 3 days after the murder. He couldn't walk past the bathroom. He couldn't look at the spot where the red wagon used to sit. He lives with the crushing, unanswerable guilt of a father who invited the monster into his home. "I trusted her," he told reporters outside the courthouse. "I trusted her with the most precious thing I had, and she used that trust to kill her." Bella's biological mother has also left the neighborhood. She cannot live on the street where she found her daughter. The image of that white bucket on the green grass is burned into her retinas. Every time she sees a delivery truck, every time she sees a plastic container, the trauma resets. The final lesson: look at the footage one last time. Look at the red wagon. It is a universal symbol of childhood. It is meant for dolls, for puppies, for beach days. Hannah Lim corrupted that symbol. She turned a toy into a hearse. This case serves as a brutal, permanent warning about the evil stepmother archetype. We are taught to fear the stranger in the white van. We are taught to fear the dark alley. But Bella Fontenelle wasn't killed by a stranger. She was killed by the woman who made her breakfast. She was killed by the woman her father kissed goodbye. Trust is a biological necessity. We have to trust people to live. But Hannah Lim proved that trust is also a vulnerability. Sometimes, the person holding your hand is the same person waiting for the moment to let go. Bella Fontenelle was 6 years old. She loved drawing. She loved her dad. She is buried now in a small cemetery in Harahan. And on her grave, there is no red wagon, only flowers and the silence of a life stolen by the woman who was supposed to protect her.